After 10 years away, he discovered his father's ranch held an incredible, life-changing secret. Jake stepped out of his truck, the sun-baked Texas heat wrapping around him like a long-lost friend. A decade had slipped by since he'd left this place, the ranch that once echoed with laughter and love. Now, it stood quiet, its beauty shadowed by the weight of his father's absence. He shivered, despite the warmth, as memories of his father flooded back, intertwining with his own unresolved feelings. Grease-stained hands felt out of place here, yet they reminded him of his work as a mechanic, far removed from the life he'd left behind. The barn loomed in front of him, its weathered wood catching the light, whispering secrets from the past. Between the creaks of the door, the faint scent of hay melded with rust. Jake pulled in a deep breath, but instead of solace, he felt the lump of guilt growing thicker in his throat. All those years spent running, dreaming of a better life. He hadn't wanted to leave, but he had to, or so he told himself. Now, standing here, he was confronted with what he'd lost, the warmth of family, the bond of brotherhood, and the legacy of a father who had always believed in him. As he rummaged through dusty boxes and neglected tools, Jake's heart raced. The excitement and trepidation of digging through old memories pulled at him. Amongst the jumble, his fingers brushed against the worn-out steering wheel of his father's beloved antique pickup truck. Nostalgia ignited within him. Leaning down, he noticed a latch hidden beneath a layer of grime. With a swift motion, he pried it open. Stacks of papers tumbled out, a treasure trove of his father's dreams. One deeply penned letter caught his eye. It detailed a scholarship fund his father had quietly established for local youth, a dream of giving them the chance at vocational training, something he never had himself. Tears pricked at Jake's eyes, a mix of admiration and guilt brewing in his chest. What had he done? Every turn he took led him deeper into the realization that while his father had fought for the dreams of others, he had abandoned his family's ranch, his father's vision. Suddenly, that burden felt heavier than ever as he faced his estranged siblings gathered to discuss the fate of the ranch. Plans of dividing the land and selling it shadowed the room, a glaring contrast to his father's heartfelt intentions. "You don't understand. This isn't just land, it's our father's legacy," Jake exclaimed, passion coursing through him. Their eyes rolled, dismissing his plea as nostalgic foolishness. Accusations flew like arrows, each sibling seeing Jake as the one who had run away, the traitor to their upbringing. The fissure between them cracked wider with every word. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jake felt adrift in the chaos of conflict, but something inside him ignited. He couldn't let this be the end. With the help of friends from his hometown, he devised a plan to honor his father's memory. A community event celebrating the legacy forged by love and sacrifice. Uniting the townsfolk, he slowly began to kindle hope, reach out to the youth, and share the story behind the scholarship fund. As days turned into weeks, laughter began to spill back onto the ranch, the spirit of togetherness taking root once more, but with the event's date looming, uncertainty coiled around him. Could he truly mend the rifts with his family? As he stood before the community, heart pounding, thoughts racing, he faced a deeper realization: this endeavor may not only redefine his father's legacy but also confront his own understanding of success. The air was thick with unspoken words. Jake stood at the crossroads, knowing that the next moments could change everything if only he could find the strength to unite them all. The day arrived, the sun bright and eager. Jake stepped outside, feeling the vibrant energy of the ranch pulsate beneath his feet. Tents flapped in the breeze, their white peaks a stark contrast against the deep blue sky. Friends and family buzzed around him, setting up tables laden with food, laughter threading through the air like a familiar tune. But for Jake, every chuckle sent a jolt of anxiety through his chest. He watched his siblings move about with distant detachment. Each one wove in and out of memories, albeit with skeptical expressions, still wrestling with their thoughts. Alyssa arranged the flowers, a somber focus etched on her face. "We're just wasting time," she said quietly, catching Jake's eye over her shoulder. "You think this is going to change anything?" "It can," Jake replied, determination pumping strength into his words. "This isn't just for us. It's what Dad wanted." The familiar clench of doubt echoed in her eyes, but she merely nodded, returning to her task. Jake turned back to the gathering, searching for a sense of hope among the chaos. He had planned every detail, every word he'd share with the community. The purpose of the event flared in his mind. It was more than a celebration, it was a call to action, a chance for redemption. As the sun dipped low, casting a warm golden hue over the ranch, the first guests arrived. The friendly faces of old neighbors kindled memories he thought were buried deep. Laughter soon exploded, ricocheting off the weathered barn walls, awakening shadows of his past. Jake engulfed himself in the warmth of those who had loved his father, eager to share stories and hearing echoes of "Your dad was a good man." But somewhere beneath the laughter, discomfort brewed. Jake glimpsed his siblings whispering quietly among themselves. Their frowns cast heavy clouds over the vibrant reunion. Was he really making progress, or was this just a gilded facade? With every passing moment, his unease escalated. Were they silently plotting to dismiss his vision again? Just as Jake gathered the courage to approach them, the laughter faded, and the crowd turned toward the makeshift stage. Heart racing, he took his place near the microphone. The crowd drew closer, eyes full of curiosity and expectation. He cleared his throat, his pulse hammering in his ears, the weight of their gaze almost too much to bear. "Thank you for coming." His voice trembled at first. "Today is about more than just reliving memories. It's about the future. My dad's dream was to lift up this community, and he started with that scholarship fund." As he spoke, he saw the flicker of softened expressions, the glimmer of realization dawning among his siblings. Was it possible? Could they understand? But just as he began to feel the tides shift, a voice boomed from the back. "And what makes you think you know what this ranch needs, Jake?" It was Ethan, his older brother, arms crossed, a mask of skepticism carved into his features. "You left us. You have no right to dictate our future." Intense silence descended, thick enough to suffocate any hope. Jake's heart sank, unmasked vulnerability surging through him. "Listen, I know I've made mistakes. I thought leaving was the answer, but I was wrong. I want to mend this for all of us." His voice cracked, revealing the raw truth dancing beneath his bravado. Ethan stepped forward, his glare unyielding. "Then prove it." There was a challenge in his tone that sent a ripple of emotions through the crowd. The stakes had risen sharply, and Jake felt the weight of the moment settle on his shoulders. This wasn't just about his father's legacy anymore. It was about family, confrontation, and the struggle to find a way back. As he met Ethan's steely eyes, Jake knew he had a mountain to climb. Would he stand tall in unity, or would the fractures deepen? With everything at stake, he inhaled deeply, ready to fight for what mattered most. But did he have the strength to lead them all into the future? Jake's heart raced as Ethan's challenge hung in the air. The eyes of their friends and family bore down on him, full of expectations and doubts. Tension swirled like a summer storm. Each heartbeat thundered in his ears, drowning out the laughter that had filled the ranch moments before. "Prove it," Ethan repeated, taking a step closer, arms still crossed defiantly. Jake felt the weight of those two words. That simple challenge cut deeper than he could have anticipated. He had to show he wasn't just a lost son returning to a place of memories, but a man ready to take charge and reshape their future. "All right," Jake managed, squaring his shoulders. "What if we start by working together? No more divisions. Just us. As a family." There was a flicker of something in Ethan's eyes, a crack in his steely facade, but Jake couldn't read it. Was it interest? Skepticism? Alyssa and Mia, the youngest sister, shifted uncomfortably behind Ethan. Jake glanced at them, hoping for a sign of support. Alyssa's expression was pained, as if she was caught between loyalty and resentment. "Jake, it's not that easy," Mia spoke up. Her voice wavered, but determination was evident. "Things have changed. We've been holding this place together on our own. We can't just pretend everything is fine, just because you're back." "I'm not asking you to pretend," Jake replied. "But I want to help. Can't we at least try? For Dad." A long, heavy silence draped over the crowd. Jake's words lingered like fragile wisps of hope, waiting for someone to grab hold. Finally, someone in the back broke the tension. "Come on, let us all remember what this place means to us," an old neighbor called out, creating a ripple of agreement from the crowd. "Let us give him a chance. After all, that was your father's way, wasn't he it?" But Ethan wasn't he so easily swayed. "A chance? Does a chance lead to more broken promises?" He shot back. Jake's insides twisted at the bitterness. "Maybe it's time to face the truth," Alyssa interjected. "We can't keep avoiding what we need to do. If you truly want to help, then we need to uncover what has really been going on." "What do you mean?" Jake felt a sudden chill. She paused, looking down, contemplating her words. "There are things about this ranch, about Dad, that we've kept buried. Secrets." Confused murmurs passed through the crowd. Jake's chest tightened. Secrets? What could possibly be hidden in a place he thought he knew so well? Such as? He pressed, desperate for answers. "Not now, not here," Alyssa replied, shaking her head. "Not in front of everyone. But if you're truly serious about wanting to help, then you need to be ready to look at the past differently. Then let us meet tonight. Just us," Jake suggested. "I want to understand everything. No walls, no reservations." He wasn't sure if it was the right approach, but he could feel the fire of determination burning within him, the desire to forge a different path, to reclaim their unity. One by one, expressions around the group softened. Maybe, just maybe, they could work towards something meaningful. Yet as Jake met his siblings' eyes, he recognized that the road ahead was fraught with darkness, shadowed secrets waiting to break free. Would the truth strengthen their bond or pull them further apart? With that question hanging like a weight in the air, Jake felt the urge to press forward. Tonight held the potential for revelations. Could they unravel the ties of their shared past and build a future together? As the sun dipped behind the mountains, casting long shadows over the ranch, Jake braced himself for the unearthing of truths he could not yet fathom. Would he find the answers that might save them, or would he uncover wounds too deep to heal? The evening sun painted the sky in shades of orange and purple as Jake stood on the porch, his hands resting on the weathered railing. The ranch felt different now, charged with anticipation and fear. Shadows danced around him, and he could almost hear the whisper of memories floating through the crisp air. He glanced back at the house, where his siblings were gathering, a mix of tension and reluctant hope simmering between them. As he heard low voices drifting from inside, a wave of unease washed over him. What secrets could they possibly reveal? Would it change everything he thought he knew about their father and about himself? The idea of digging into their family's past made his stomach churn. But deep down, he knew avoiding the truth would only deepen the rifts that had formed over the years. Alyssa emerged first, her expression a blend of resolve and reluctance. Mia followed close behind, her eyes darting between Jake and their older brother Ethan, who came last, his jaw set tight, like a storm just waiting to unleash. "Are you ready for this?" Alyssa's voice quivered slightly, revealing the storm brewing within her. Jake took a deep breath. "I'm ready. Whatever it is, we can handle it. Together." He hoped the strength of that statement would reach them, form a bridge over the chasms of doubt that threatened to tear them apart. They settled into the living room, which echoed with the familiarity of childhood. Pictures adorned the walls, moments frozen in time, smiles that seemed to belong to a happier era. Yet, underneath the surface, Jake felt the weight of unspoken truths lurking in the corners. "Let us just get to it," Ethan said, his tone clipped. "What are these secrets you think we need to discuss?" Alyssa shot him a look, a mixture of frustration and understanding. "It's about Dad. There are things he never talked about. The ranch, it's not just land to him. It was like an escape." "What do you mean?" Jake asked, leaning forward. She sighed, running a hand through her hair, a nervous gesture that reminded him of their mother. "The debts, the reasons we had to work twice as hard, they're not just about keeping this place afloat. He was trying to protect us from something. Something he thought we didn't need to know. What could possibly be so terrible?" Mia whispered, her voice barely breaking the silence of the room. Jake's heart raced. What kind of burden had their father carried? Would this knowledge bring them closer, or push them further apart? "There's a reason he started shutting us out," Alyssa continued. "He was involved in things that even he couldn't face us about. We've lost pieces of him, and we've lost pieces of ourselves, too." Jake's chest felt heavy as he recalled the moments filled with laughter that had faded into hollow echoes of family dinners without their father's guiding presence. What other family stuff did he hide? Ethan pressed, frustration thickening his voice. "We didn't need him to protect us. He pushed us away." "Maybe he thought that's what family meant," Alyssa said softly. "Sometimes silence feels safer than shattered dreams." Jake closed his eyes, imagining how much they could have supported one another. But now, deep-rooted issues began creeping into the light, swirling like thick fog around them, obscuring what lay ahead. "Let us unravel it together," he finally said, desperate for connection. "No more hiding. No more silence. If this is the first step back to family, let us take it." As the room fell silent, Jake's heart thudded in anticipation of what lay ahead. Would they find peace or simply confront the ghosts of the past? The choice was hovering in the air, charged and potent that he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of something monumental. As they exchanged glances, he could sense the tensions easing, a hesitant unity forming. But with secrets unspooling, was there more to uncover than just a shared past? As the last light of day slipped away, the darkness settled in, awaiting the revelations that would change everything. What new truths would surface as they reached into the depths of their family's legacy? The silence in the room felt heavy, a blanket of uncertainty wrapping around each sibling. Jake shifted in his seat, the cushions creaking beneath him. The uncertainty of what lay ahead was like a knot in his stomach. He could almost hear their father's voice echoing from the past. Why hadn't he shared the struggles he faced? Alyssa took a deep breath. "We need to start with what we know," she urged, her eyes glistening. "And then maybe we can piece together the rest." Mia nodded, her fingers fidgeting with the hem of her shirt. "I remember him being tense sometimes, like he was carrying the weight of the world." Ethan clenched his jaw, visibly frustrated. "What does that even mean? Was it just about money? Or was it something bigger?" Jake interjected, "Let us not jump to conclusions. We have to lay it all out without the anger. We've spent so much time apart, tearing at each other when we needed to be united." That struck a chord with Mia. She raised her gaze, her voice quivering. "We can't change the past, but we can find out why he turned away from us." The plea in her eyes pulled at Jake's heart. The walls seemed to close in around them as they confronted the reality they'd all avoided for so long. Alyssa pulled out an old scrapbook from the coffee table, flipping through pages filled with yellowed photographs. "Look, this was right before everything changed." The images of their father, younger and smiling, evoked bittersweet nostalgia. "Those were happier times," Mia whispered, tracing a finger over a picture of a birthday celebration from years ago. "What happened to him? To us?" Ethan's voice carried a mix of anger and sadness. "He just turned off like a switch." In response, Jake's mind raced with memories how their father had spent nights alone in the barn long after everyone else had gone to bed. The way he had retreated into himself, a fortress of silence. "It's not just about the ranch," he said, determination lining his voice. "It's deeper than that. We need to dig. What if what we find only pushes us further apart?" Alyssa countered, her voice shaky. "Then we tackle it together," Jake replied. "Whatever it is, we can face it, right?" A silence ensued as they looked at one another, each sibling weighing the chance for unity against the risk of unraveling the fragile threads of their family. "Okay, but how do we start?" Mia asked, her willingness to uncover the truth shining through her apprehension. "I say we begin with what Dad did before he came here," Jake proposed, excitement and fear mingling in his tone. "We dig into his past, not just the ranch, but who he was. Maybe there are clues. Places he went, things he hid." Ethan finally nodded, some of the rigidity in his shoulders easing. "Let us do it, then. For him. For us." With that, the fire within the siblings started to glow. They each took turns recounting memories, uncovering remnants of their father's life. With every shared recollection, the walls around their hearts chipped away, making space for understanding and healing. Jake felt a spark of hope ignite as he held her gaze. It was a small light in the face of overwhelming shadows, but it was enough to lead them somewhere. Hours slipped by, and as they pieced together fragments of their father's life, a new reality began forming. But even as the stories unfolded, Jake sensed an underlying truth shadowing their revelations. Something tugged at his mind, something he couldn't quite grasp, lurking just outside their awareness. "Guys," he began slowly, "what if there's something he didn't want us to find out? What if we poke at wounds that are meant to stay closed?" The question hung in the air, thick with anxiety and curiosity. A chill rushed through him as they exchanged glances, apprehension curling around their hearts anew. They were getting closer to the truth, but at what cost? The darkness outside the window deepened, mirroring the shadows creeping within their own hearts. With determination dancing alongside their fear, they knew they were just stepping into a wild unknown. What awaited them wasn't just a long-buried treasure or answer. Across the threshold lay the potential for transformation or perhaps, devastation. What depths of their father's past would they unearth, and how would it reshape their bond forever? As dawn broke, the first light painted shadows across the room, casting a new day upon the stagnant air. Jake, restless, had barely slept. Thoughts of their father's unspoken struggles prowled his mind, refusing to let him rest. The sun sneaked in through the window, illuminating the forgotten corners of their lives, urging him to stir his siblings into action. "Hey," he nudged Alyssa gently, breaking the stillness that wrapped around them. "It's time to get started. We can't dig into this without moving forward." She groaned softly, her hair tousled and her eyes squinting against the light. "Can't we just take a little more time? This is all a lot." Mia stretched and yawned, the fatigue settling into her bones like a heavy cloak. "If we don't start now, we might never do it." Ethan shuffled over to the table, filled with stacks of papers, old letters, and remnants of their father's life that had been sealed away for too long. The sight of it sent a rush of urgency through him. "Let us do this," he muttered, a mix of determination and the last remnants of lingering doubt evident in his voice. Alyssa took a deep breath, her resolve strengthening. "All right, let us begin with what we have. Maybe the answers are hidden in these memories." As they huddled around the table, Mia's fingers brushed over a faded letter, its corners dog-eared and worn. "Look at this," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "It's from the year he left the ranch." They all leaned in closer, their breaths mingling in the charged atmosphere. The letter, written in their father's hurried scrawl, spoke of dreams and plans. It pulsed with his hopes, but glimmers of fear seeped through the ink. "This just doesn't feel like him," Jake whispered, frowning as he read between the lines. "I can sense the doubt, the ache." Alyssa, her voice steadying, glanced at her brothers and sister. "It feels like he was trying to escape, not just run away from us but from something inside." The room thickened with tension as they processed the implications. What secrets had their father carried? What truth had he been so desperate to hide? The siblings passed the letter among them, taking turns digesting the emotional weight it carried. Each read further away from the child they remembered. Maybe we need to go visit some of these places he mentioned, Ethan suggested, their thoughts swirling in a whirlpool of uncertainty and fear. Where should we start? Mia asked, her apprehension palpable. All we need to do is follow the clues. We can begin with the old diner he used to talk about, Jake illuminated, excitement creeping back into his voice. The one by the highway. Yeah. I remember him saying it was special to him, Mia added, her eyes lighting up. There might be people who remember him. With a newfound sense of purpose, packing old photos into the back of Jake's truck felt like packing pieces of their identity. It was a chance to retrieve what was lost, to stitch their family back together. As they drove through town, memories flooded back like an open faucet. The familiar sights felt like a threshold to a life untouched for too long. But in this journey toward discovery lay an uncomfortable reality. The more they unearthed, the more they faced their father's troubled spirit. Pulling up to the diner, the faded sign creaking in the wind, anticipation crackled in the air. In the somber corners of the restaurant, echoes of laughter and sorrow melded together. The possibility of answers hung like a storm cloud ready to burst. Whether they'll be good or bad, I guess we'll have to face it all, Jake said, his heart drumming in his chest. What if this place reveals secrets that change everything? As they stepped inside, the familiar scent of coffee and grease enveloped them. An elderly waitress looked up, her eyes widening with recognition. You must be. The words hung in the air, laden with promise and dread. What memory would she unearth? What truth lay in wait? With a shiver coursing through him, Jake braced for what was to come. Something told him that the depths of their father's past were about to resurface. Would they be ready to face it? The waitress set down her coffee pot and wiped her hands on her apron, a small smile breaking through the lines etched on her face. You must be the Miller kids, she said, her voice a soft melody against the diner's ambient chatter. Your father used to sit right there, at that corner booth. Always took a slice of cherry pie on Sundays. Jake's breath caught in his throat. Cherry pie. He could almost hear their father's laughter echoing alongside the clink of plates, a sound now ghostly and far away. Do you remember him? Ethan asked, his voice barely above a whisper as they gathered closer to the counter. Oh, I remember him well, the waitress replied, her expression shifting from nostalgia to something more solemn. He had a light about him, so full of dreams. But there were days when I could see the weight on his shoulders. Alyssa exchanged a glance with her siblings, the unspoken fear lurking beneath the surface palpable in the air. What do you mean? She probed, her curiosity igniting. The waitress hesitated, her eyes drifting momentarily as though searching the distant haze of memory. He talked about wanting to build a future, but he struggled with his past. Always mentioned the ranch, said it haunted him. Haunted. The word hung heavy, its implications wrapping around Jake's heart like a vice, squeezing him. What had their father been through? The pieces of the puzzle were starting to form unsettling images, darker strokes that painted a life burdened with secrets. Did he ever say why he left? Mia asked, her voice small, almost afraid to stir the shadows deeper. Not to me, she answered, shaking her head slowly. But he'd have these moments, you know. Where the light in his eyes dimmed and all that was left was a man wrestling with something he couldn't shake. It hurt him, kids, I could see it. Jake looked to each of his siblings, their faces mirroring each other's fear and resolve. How had they lived so long without knowing this? The damage their father had carried alone weighed heavier now. Is there anyone here who knew him well? Someone who might shed more light? Jake pressed, desperation creeping into his tone. Maybe Fred, she said, her brow furrowing as if she were lifting memories from a long-forgotten box. He was a friend. Lived nearby until a few years ago, but I think he comes around now and then. Where can we find him? Ethan asked, urgency swelling in his chest. The waitress pointed down the way, her hand steady but her eyes full of concern. The old gas station just off the highway. If he's not there, he might be at the park. Used to go there a lot to clear his head. They thanked her, their gratitude looming larger than the diner itself. As they turned to leave, Jake felt the weight of their ancestry pushing against him, and he knew they weren't just seeking answers anymore, they were confronting shadows that had lurked too long in their family's history. Stepping back outside, the sun was brighter, but its warmth felt more like a delusion than comfort. The truck seemed to hum in anticipation, and Jake could already picture what lay ahead, secrets that could reshape everything they thought they knew. "Do you think Fred will know why Dad left?" Mia's voice broke through his racing thoughts, and fear creased her brow. "I don't know," Jake admitted, the uncertainty gnawing at him. "But we have to find out. For all of us." With that, they climbed back into the truck, each breath mingling with a fragile hope that clung to their hearts. It was a race against time now, and with every mile, the stakes grew higher. They sped past familiar landmarks, yet the landscape felt different, burdened with the weight of unanswered questions. Pulling into the gas station's lot, Jake's heart drummed relentlessly. What truths awaited them? The door creaked open as they stepped inside, the faint jingle of a bell signaling their arrival. An older man turned, sun-kissed skin betraying years of labor and life. As recognition flickered in his eyes, Jake felt an electric charge in the air. "Fred?" Jake ventured, stepping closer, the space between them filled with unsaid memories. Would this be the moment everything changed? Fred's eyes narrowed as he assessed the group in front of him, an unspoken recognition dawning on his face. "Jake," he said slowly, taking a step forward. "Ethan. Mia. Alyssa." Each name rolled off his tongue with a kind of reverence, like he was unveiling a treasured memory. "Yes, it's us," Jake replied, his voice trembling slightly. We came to talk about our dad." Fred's expression shifted, shadows flitting across his features as he leaned against the worn counter of the gas station. "Your father, there was always something special about him," he sighed, a mixture of regret and admiration in his tone. "He was a good man, but he carried burdens too heavy for most." Jake felt the knot in his stomach tighten. "What do you mean?" he urged, desperation creeping into his voice. "Why did he leave? What happened?" Taking a deep breath, Fred gestured for them to sit on a nearby bench, the sun filtering through the dusty windows. As they settled in, an uneasy silence stretched between them. The rhythm of the world outside felt muffled, as if even time paused to listen. "Your father had dreams, big dreams," Fred began, his voice low and steady. "He wanted to make something of himself, something that would lift all of us. But he came from a tough place. The ranch, it wasn't just land. It held memories that haunted him." "His dad?" Alyssa asked, her voice small but curious. Fred nodded, a shadow crossing his face. "He loved his father, but there were dark days. Days of hard choices that shaped him. Their relationship was complicated. There was a conflict, an incident that caused him to leave, to start over far away. He thought it would set him free from the past." Jake could see fragments of the father he remembered surfacing in Fred's description. "What happened? Why didn't he ever tell us?" "I think he wanted to protect you kids from it," Fred said softly. "He thought that leaving would shield you from the pain he experienced. But that doesn't mean he didn't hurt for it. The ranch was like a tether, tying him to everything he feared." A mix of emotions surged within Jake: anger, sadness, confusion. "But it doesn't explain why he never came back. Why he never tried to reach us." Fred cast his gaze downward, as if overtaken by the weight of their father's decisions. "Sometimes, people believe they're doing what's best. He thought that staying away was a better choice than risking dragging you into a troubled past. He thought he was saving you." As the weight of the words settled in, tears pricked at the corners of Mia's eyes. "But we needed him, we loved him. We still do, Ethan added, clenching his fists, a mix of frustration and longing flashing across his face. Fred looked each of them in the eye, his own reflecting a sense of shared grief. There are things left unspoken, things you deserve to know. If you're willing, I can take you to the ranch. It's time to confront what's been hiding there for so long. Jake's heart raced. A part of him was terrified at the thought of revisiting that chapter of their lives, but the other part, the one clinging to hope, felt undeniable. Yes, he said, the answer spilling out before he could second-guess himself. We have to face it. It's now or never. As they stood to leave, the impending confrontation loomed large. How had they arrived at this precipice, where the truth lay ahead, cloaked in uncertainty? Fred motioned toward the door, inviting them to follow him. With every step, the ground felt more alive beneath their feet, a path leading them back to roots they had long sought to understand. But just as they reached the threshold, Fred paused, turning back to them. Are you ready for what you might uncover? He looked into their eyes, searching for resolve. There are some things that can change everything you thought you knew about your father. Jake swallowed hard. I'm ready. We're ready. They stepped outside into the sun, but the weight of their father's legacy loomed larger than the brightness above. The ranch awaited, its secrets ready to be unearthed. As they climbed into Fred's truck, the silence was heavier than before. Each sibling's heart raced in unison, their futures now entwined with the shadows of their past. What awaited them at the ranch? Would they find healing or deeper division? The road stretched ahead, and they drove on, curiosity mingling with trepidation. The truth lay just beyond the horizon, waiting to break free. The tires of Fred's truck crunched over gravel as they drove, the landscape shifting from the familiar to the unknown. Jake stared out of the dusty window, his heart pounding. Memories clashed in his mind, the laughter of his father, the warmth of a shared story, and then, the icy grip of absence that followed. It was hard to fathom that they were heading back to the ranch, a place each of them had imagined so many times, a place now cloaked in question marks. Do you think he was happy? Mia's voice broke through the thick tension, her eyes still glistening with unshed tears. Maybe he tried to be, Ethan replied, adjusting his grip on the seat, his knuckles turning white. But how could he be, if he left us behind? Fred, sensing the siblings' distress, cleared his throat. It's complicated. Happiness and pain can coexist. Your father, he hesitated, formulating thoughts that felt too heavy to articulate. He wanted to protect you by staying away. But in doing that, he may have created a prison of his own making. The silence stretched again, filled only with the sounds of the engine and the wind whistling through rolled-down windows. The trees outside began to close in, their branches reaching into the sky like crooked fingers. Jake could feel the weight of the world piling on his chest, pressing him closer to the edge of a precipice he was unsure he wanted to face. Eventually, the familiar outline of the ranch appeared on the horizon, its contours jagged and worn but undeniably home. Memories crashed into Jake like waves upon a shore. He felt a swell of emotions: anxiety, nostalgia, hope. As they drew closer, the sight of the old barn brought memories flooding back: riding his bike, chasing fireflies, and the echo of his father's laughter. Here we are, Fred announced softly as he parked the truck, the engine ticking down with a sigh. The ranch was unchanged, yet it felt so different, as if time had trickled by without them. Stepping out, the smell of hay, horses, and earth hit him all at once. It was both comforting and haunting. Jake took a deep breath, trying to steady the whirlwind in his chest. "What's the first thing we should do?" he asked, half hopeful that someone would have the answers. Fred looked back at them, his face serious, tinged with sympathy. "There's a place where he used to keep his things. We should start there. It may hold the key to understanding him better." With a nod, they walked toward the barn, each step heavy with anticipation. The air seemed thick, almost electric, as if the walls had been listening all these years, waiting for them to return. As they entered the barn, dust motes danced in the muted beams of sunlight that streamed through cracks in the walls. Old tools hung from the rafters, and the scent of leather and wood lingered in the air like a whisper. Fred began to sift through an old trunk in the corner. "What if we find something that changes everything?" Alyssa said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Then we face it," Jake replied, though his heart sank at the thought. He wanted to be ready, but the looming shadow of unknown revelations felt daunting. With a creak, the trunk opened, revealing assorted mementos from their father's life, pictures, letters, even his old cowboy hat, worn and weathered. Time surged back as they unearthed memory after memory, each one a thread binding the fabric of a life that had once been holed up. As Fred unearthed a folded piece of paper, his hands trembling slightly, he glanced up at them. This could explain everything. Jake leaned in, a rush of dread and curiosity swirling within him. What had their father kept hidden all this time? And how would it reshape everything they thought they knew? He held his breath, waiting to hear the truth that was about to unfold. Would it bring them closer together or shatter the fragile hopes they had? In that moment, everything hung in the balance, and the past was finally creeping forward to meet them. The tension crackled in the air as they braced for the revelation that would change their lives forever. What could the letter reveal? About the man they thought they knew. Jake's heart raced as Fred slowly unfolded the aged letter, revealing neat yet hurried handwriting that seemed to echo the past. The air around them buzzed with uncertainty, each sibling waiting for the words to breathe life into the shadowy corners of their family history. As Fred began to read aloud, Jake clenched his fists, the tension palpable in every syllable. "To my dear children," Fred's voice quavered, drawing everyone closer, eyes glued to him as he continued. "I am writing this in the hope that one day you will understand the choices I made. The ranch was never just a home to me, it was a tether to a past that haunted me, a past I thought I had left behind." Words floated between them like smoke from a dying fire, igniting memories of their father's laughter and warmth, now intertwined with echoes of regret and sorrow. Alyssa's chin quivered as she fought back tears, while Ethan's jaw clenched tighter at the painful truths unfolding. "The truth is, I made mistakes. Mistakes that made me feel unworthy of being your father. I was infested with fears of failing you, of dragging you down with my burdens. Leaving seemed like the noble thing to do." Fred paused, emotion catching in his throat. "Dad thought he was protecting us," Mia whispered, a realization dawning. Jake's chest tightened, the unraveling mysteries weighed heavily. "He felt he had to save us from himself," he said slowly, piecing together the fragments of their father's life that they had never understood. Fred continued, his voice breaking at the raw honesty of their father. "I sealed my scars from you. I believed being away would help you create your own dreams, those untainted by my shadows. I was wrong, so very wrong." Jake felt heat rise within him, a swirl of grief and emerald rage. "He thought running from us was for our good. But he didn't understand we needed him. We wanted to carry that legacy together." Alyssa wept quietly, a hand covering her mouth. "Why didn't he just tell us?" "Fear can keep you from the people you love the most," Fred murmured. "Sometimes staying quiet feels simpler than speaking truth." Bitterness lingered sweetly on Ethan's tongue. "So, he hid. He left us to guess, bound us in silence when he should have reached out." "The past doesn't dictate the future," Jake interjected, voice deepening with conviction. "We cannot let it dictate ours." Fred halted, squeezing the paper into a tight fist. "Your father wanted you to live for yourselves, to shine brighter than he dared to imagine. But part of that dream rests here in the ranch, in your connection to each other." The tension in the air began to dissipate like mist under the warming sun. The pain felt like a ripe storm that had finally passed. Sitting there in the barn, Jake felt an unmistakable shift. As Fred folded the letter and placed it carefully back into the trunk, he looked at each of them, a spark of hope igniting in his eyes. "So what will you do with this newfound knowledge? Will you carry your father's dream, or will you succumb to the past?" A beat of silence weighed heavily around them as Jake absorbed the weight of the decision. He glanced at each of his siblings, recognizing that they all carried the same questions in their hearts. Would they build a bridge or let those shadows throw them apart? We need to stay together, Jake declared, his voice steady and unwavering. Let us honor his memory, not drown in what was lost, but thrive in what could be. This ranch holds our dreams, and we can cultivate that together. Mia wiped her tears away, nodding. Right. We can make it a place for others like the scholarship fund. Let us restore the ranch, not just for us, but for him, for everyone. His legacy can live on through us. I'm in, Ethan murmured, his tough exterior softening. If you wanted us to face the past together, then I will do it, no more running. Alyssa took Jake's hand, squeezing it tightly, her spirit illuminating with newfound purpose. He believed in us, and we need to believe in each other now. As they stood together, their hearts aligned, a rush of warmth cascaded over them, a sense of belonging and fortitude ignited like a flickering flame into a roaring fire. They were ready to embrace their father's legacy, rewrite their narrative, and build a future woven together with strands of love and resilience. Jake gazed around the barn. The walls were no longer just structures of wood and memories, they were the beginnings of something alive and breathing. Let South bring this place back to life. Together. As the last light of day filtered through the cracks, the sun setting signaled not an end, but a profound beginning. It was their moment, a second chance at reclaiming family, hope, and a brighter horizon. Don't wait not even one more second to share. You need to subscribe now to our channel for more exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let your voice be heard in the comments. Tell us your feelings about this incredible transformation. And share instantly with at least 5 friends who simply must witness this journey. This is the moment to show your support.